place filled up. I looked back a little bit ago, 5 minutes ago. There, good. I'm so glad you're here. What about these musicians? This is just becoming... I'm going to talk about manifesting. Is it all right if I take the full responsibility of it? Well, I have a story to tell you. Let's see. Do I have my mic on? Okay, good. I like it better that way. In ancient times, there would be occasion where there would be an elder wise man, and there would then be a younger man who was sort of like a protege, or the older was the mentor. And so all the wisdom he would share. And so it would be not unusual for them to be traveling from one city or another city together and then talking about things. Well, it so happens this was the case. And the young man on this trip wanted to know all about relationships. So the wise man said, he said, I remember this experience that I met this lady, and she was really a beautiful lady, but then her social skills were lacking. And domestically, she wasn't really that skilled. Oh, and the young man said, and then he said, but he said, I met another lady, and she had wonderful domestic skills. She was very skilled socially, but she was so unattractive. And the young man said, he said, and then what else? Did you never meet that perfect woman? And he said, yes, I did, finally. He said, she was so beautiful. And all of her social skills were so wonderful. And domestically, she was beyond reproach. And the young man said, and she was the perfect woman. And the young man said, and then you married. And he said, no. He said, it seems as though she was looking for the perfect man. Stuff happens. Title of this message is Manifesting Your Good. Do you know, I never heard that expression for the many, many years I was in Southern Baptist work. I don't believe I ever heard that expression I remember it from college, manifest destiny. Do you know what that meant? Does anybody? I know Henry knows down here, but I'm thinking about the rest of you. But it was that belief in the 1840s that our destiny was to manifest all the way to the Pacific Ocean, that take this country all the way. Now, you have to realize not everybody agreed with that. There's still probably some still on the Mayflower, that didn't want to get off. But the idea being is that it took a long time for me to realize. I started into Unity like in 83 or something like this. And then I began to hear the expression of manifesting things. Guess what the first thing that I heard was? And I thought, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard of, is manifesting a parking place. Back then, my knees weren't quite like they are now. Has anybody else ever heard that, or was I the only one? You heard manifesting a parking place? I said, you know what? I said, that's too big. A parking place is too big. What I would like to manifest, this is back a true story. I said, I'd like to manifest a zero. Just zero. A zero, like every check, I get one extra zero right at the end. Something little like that. Well, Friday, I changed my whole attitude about manifesting a parking place. All of you know who Deb Harn is, but you might not know that he's right now over in Dallas in the Veterans Hospital. Well, I went to see him Friday, and I thought it was going to be easy because when I got there, not only is it a huge, huge complex, but the parking lot just went on forever. The trouble was, all the places. I can't imagine at 9-something in the morning on a Friday morning that every parking place was not only full, but there were people driving up and down, and I began driving up and down, and somebody might leave, but then somebody else got it. Well, and then I thought, do you know that idea of manifesting a parking place wasn't as bad as I thought it was? I'll tell you what I finally did, though, is I went up to the front where people were coming out, and here's this guy, and I said, are you going to your car? And he said, yes. He said, it's way back at the back, but I'm going to my car. And I said, well, let me give you a ride, and then I'm going to give you... He jumped right in. I took him, and let me tell you, and when I pulled up to where there wasn't a chance that I wanted that parking place. I had been there 15 minutes driving, and this was the answer, and I got that parking place. Of course, it seemed like 7 miles walk back the other way, but then when I came out, well, I discovered there were shuttles, and so I got a ride all the way back, and it turned into a good day. Dub also said that if anybody cares to visit, that he's in room C5430. Anyway, big place, hard to find your way around in, but there's so much help. Everybody's there willing to help you and guide you, and it's easy. And then he's in wonderful spirits. I thought I'd let you know. Apparently everything's working out. Well, let me get back to manifesting your good. This is something that we really do automatically. It's sort of like it comes with your being here. But there are those who develop manifesting as a skill. I believe that, and I hate to say it this way because it may sound like that a little boastful, but it really isn't. I'm trying to explain to you that if I teach something, I want to experience it. I don't want to just teach something and say, I'm pretty sure that works. You know, I'm not sure, but pretty sure. No, it works. It works manifesting. Right now, I'm trying to sell a house that I've gone to a lot of trouble to get it just exactly the way I wanted it. And then when I arrived at that point, well, now I'm selling it. But then the thing is to manifest or to bring forth a customer. Not good enough. I want to manifest somebody, a customer, who is absolutely in love with this place and crazy about it. You know, that's the thing. So,
I just want a customer myself.
Oh. But that's serious. I do. I want somebody to really enjoy it. I don't want somebody that's jackhammering out all the patios and things like that I've built. But anyway, this is a natural process. Let me give you a definition here. Manifest. The coming forth into visibility of that which has been affirmed. In other words, we first affirm it. And here's another, that the appearance of an idea. Even that gives us something to go with. Now, the last message I did, I used an expression. And I forget that I'm not doing every service because there's no one here that's going to remember exactly what the word was. But I used a word that I never had used, and I used it to sort of set up some of the thoughts for this message too. But the expression that I used in the pitfalls of the seeker was craving significance. Significance, and somebody questioned, and we talked about that a little bit, but significance, it's like me craving to be a man. I already am. In other words, this is something that comes with us. We are born, and we may not cultivate it, our significance. We may not work to be significant, but it's there. It's there. It's inescapable. It's there in every living being. There is significance. There's significance of your calling in life, your destiny in life. All of these things are there, but so many people come into the world and they're not aware, and it's like they don't have that touch or in touchness with the guidance that is within them. There is guidance within everyone, but we have to cultivate it, don't we? I mean, it doesn't just automatically jump on us. But I've had a lifetime of watching people as how they dealt with manifesting their good. In other words, the things that they feel like they need or desire in life. Now, sometimes it's not always about money, is it, or material things? Because just like I know that going through a bad time and losing everything in a divorce case, I've told you this before, but my wife had such a wonderful attorney. He was incredible. He taught me more about detachment than I had ever hoped to learn in a lifetime. So I learned that stuff isn't all there is. But the very first thing, and like I said, I stumbled through this for 2 or 3 years until I met Pat, but was to have a relationship, to have the right, for me, the perfect lady coming into my life. This was the most important issue. And I couldn't really think about money until I got that problem. In other words, I had a priority. And then health, manifesting good health is a part of the same idea, because that's what we do. If we have that intense desire within us, then we begin to look at ideas, and we have ideas that come in that concern our health. But then there is the thing of money. I have this belief, and I don't want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a lot of effort to be poor. That's what I think. That's what I think. I've learned that over an 80-year period of living, that it takes a lot of effort. And the natural thing is that the intent spiritually is that we have the desires of our heart filled. I can find it in the Bible. You look in Psalms 38, and it's very plain. And many ideas of Jesus was, and I could quote some of them. I think I've got them written down here someplace. But it shall be done for you if you can believe. Now, this gets me into the other part of the significance. If you can believe. Did you know that it doesn't say there exactly what you're supposed to believe about? Had you ever thought about that? So then, it shall be done for you if you can but believe. Now, I have lately begun to interpret that as more than just believing about the stuff, like healing or anything. But part of it is believing in yourself. Think about that. It sort of left that open to where as you grow in life, you might interpret it a little differently than you did in the beginning, you see? So much of it is like the significance I was talking about, that if it's there, it's there. And what we do then is we cultivate it. We become aware of ourselves and the divine that is within us, because God is within every cell of our body. God is within the atmosphere about us. Scientists are beginning to realize that there is life everywhere. There is that living. This is what we interpret as God. Because, see, I used to think of God waiting till I died and send me to heaven. Now, I don't see that anymore because I've realized through time and experience that we can create a life that absolutely feels like heaven. Just as possible to create one that feels like hell, isn't it? I've tried a little of both. I like heaven better. I've had a taste of all of it. But anyway, back to the significance and back to the believing. Now, even though there is a significance there that can't be changed, we don't have to crave that. We have to cultivate it. And then there are times that it was really good to just have encouragement. Now, that's different than giving you significance. They can't give you significance, but they can give you people, and we can give encouragement to people. I had an experience, and I just love this. I can't resist telling it. My daughter, and sort of I don't like son-in-law. Can I just call you my son? I love this guy. We prayed for him for 5 years before he showed up, manifesting. Good. Well, anyway, to tell you this experience, I don't know whether I was encouraging this little guy or he was encouraging me, but here's the story. And he's been here one time or twice. I don't remember now how many times he's been here, but his name is Alexis. He's 12 years old. He's not the little guy that's down regularly. This is just only one time. But Alexis Cruz is his name. And so 12 years old, and his dad has been working for me for a little over 20 years. So he brought him to work this summer. And he had never done that before. And this little kid is such an intellectual. He, through the summer, reads at least 2 books a week, all summer long. And when he takes, first of all, his total straight A's. I mean, there's nothing that he would be happy with that was less than that. And then he takes all these advanced classes that they offer to special students that are after school. Then he takes all the classes he can get in all those special classes. But anyway, so he's working for me. I didn't know what to pay him. I didn't think, that's a problem. But I got to watching him, and he has such good focus, It was like the very first thing he was putting on, what do you call them? The little things that on your light switch, the little... Yes, you got it now. All right, and he was doing that throughout a house. We'd taken them all off, and it was painted, and now he's putting them all back on. And I was just watching. I was standing around, and every time I'd come back, he's moving about, and he doesn't take any break. He doesn't look away. And I noticed that everything he did, he was able to give it such good attention. And so anyway, when it came the end of the summer, by the way, his dad, I'd paid him $200 the first week. His dad said, no. He said, and I said, well, is $100 okay? And so that's what we did. And he saved it every bit of it. I'd ask him at the end, and he saved every bit of it. So anyway, that very last day, I knew there was one more week that he could work. And so I asked him, are you going to work next week too? And the little guy has big glasses. And sometimes when he's adjusting the way he looks at you, it looks like he's looking down his nose, but he's not really arrogant at all. But anyway, I asked him, I said, are you going to work next week too? And he said, no. He said, I'll be preparing myself for school. So I put my arm around him, and I said, Alexis, I said, I have a favor to ask of you. I said, one of these days, when you're rich and famous, I said, will it be okay if I tell people that you used to work for me? He had this faraway look. But it's okay to validate people. There are times you see somebody that seems out of control to you or whatever, and and I think there's probably somebody out there that still should be straightening people out, maybe. I'm not sure. But do you know, I have resigned. I have resigned from that job. I did my share of trying to straighten everybody out, and then I gave up. But to validate people is more important than going around trying to straighten out anybody, I think. This is my opinion. But so it comes down to, in the significance or in the belief in ourselves, that we from that manifest things. Do you see? There is a flow. It's very interesting that, I don't know whether you remember it or not, but last week I believe it was, that I had this little story about Wayne Dyer, and didn't realize that at that moment, or at approximately that moment, he was making his transition. He passed away. And then on the internet, we noticed that so many people had quoted him. Well, anyway, I have another quote, and it's on his little talk about manifesting things. I don't totally agree, but I can see what he's saying here. You have to be in alignment to manifest. We're actually manifesting but wherever we are, when you walk out and start home, you're manifesting your way home. You see, it's that ordinary a procedure in your life. But deliberately choosing, then I see that it's so important to be in alignment with Spirit. Now, here's what else he said about it. I will attract into my life what I am. Think about that. So you become this which attracts good. So then what does that require? That requires living a life in that direction, you see. Finding what the rules of the universe are and following those rules. I feel like that's you read the teachings of Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount, and to me now, I once read it and I had one feeling about it. Another time I read it and it's beginning now to look like something different. It looks like somebody is explaining us how to make life work at the very highest level. To make life the happiest, the healthiest, the best of everything that could be in life, the most joy. And there are the rules of the universe being outlined, not teaching us just how to be good folks or go to heaven, but to how to make life work. And this is so important because when we get down to it, this is the greatest thing that we can achieve, is experience first, and then demonstrate what life is supposed to be like. In other words, it's not supposed to be drudgery. It's not supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to come naturally because it's just getting in the God plan, getting in alignment with the flow of Spirit. And then everything begins to make more sense. The things that happen in life, the things that turn up in life, you have a different way of seeing them. An obstacle just doesn't look the same when you're looking through the eyes of Spirit, because an obstacle just means a stepping stone to something better. Do you see how that works? And these are the things and ideas of the rule. But first it started out with what? Believing in yourself. Believing that you are worthy of having the very best in life. But if you don't believe that, it's hard to manifest those things that take you in that direction. And I have another thought. And this is something that I've noticed more and more. I'm seeing as spiritual gurus, if you want to call them that. I thought of Wayne Dyer as that, and Deepak Chopra, and many others that are writing, and they're giving their life to explaining what they're experiencing. And so one of the things that I've noticed shows up is that they constantly talk about our skill in giving attention. our skill in giving attention. See, this is more important than hard work as far as manifesting good. It's the skill in giving attention, maybe to details or whatever. Some of it's a partnership. I think of this thing of giving attention as part of it, but then spiritually it is a partnership between ourselves and spirit, between ourselves and the living universe of energy that is supporting us in everything we do. It is the skill. You've heard the expression co-creators with God. I like the expression partnership better, in that what we are doing, we are bringing the spiritual part of ourselves in alignment with the physical part in order to achieve all the purpose that we've set out in life to do. Those things which manifest, those things which, like I said, we bring to us, attract to us, the kind of people that surround us finally, the kind of work that we get to do, the kind of money that we get to make, all of those things. And I see them all as important spiritual aspects, rather than it finally becomes to where it's not what you manifest that creates the joy. It's watching this process that is the joy. It's watching how it works becomes a greater joy than, that we could manifest stuff. I've got more stuff than I know where to store. I'm giving it away as much as, I'm trying to just say, take this off, take this away if you need it, somebody that needs it. But the idea is it's just stuff. And money without it is a dilemma, but with it, the thing to remember is to never be part of the kingdom of thingdom. Do you know? It's where, like having a job, and instead of having a job, the job has you. I've been there. I don't like that. I like to have a job, but I want to be in charge of it. So you see, all right, but giving then attention. I had this experience. I'm going to tell you a little story from 1971. I've got them farther back than that, but I had a young man. He's 17 years old, and he started working for me. And back in those times, I hired high school boys because there was always work that they could do, and then they always appreciated, having a job for the summer. Well, this young man had also dated my oldest daughter, so I knew him that he dropped by the house. But anyway, I put him out on a job. There was a foreman on that job, and they were building retaining walls. And so the foreman called me one day, and he said, "Is there any other place that you could put this John Creasy besides on my job?" And I said, "What is wrong?" And he said, he gets there real early before work time and starts asking me questions. He finds where I'm sitting when I'm eating my lunch, and he's asking me more questions. And he stays over after work asking more questions. And so I said, "Well, is he a good worker?" He said, "He's a wonderful worker, but he's so irritating." Well, anyway, that young man worked for me all through the rest of, just one more year of high school and summer. And at Christmas holidays, he worked for me all the way through college. And I just observed, I said, I can't believe that somebody this young can give that much attention to what he's doing. And then when it's time to go do something else, he'd go do something else. Well, this young man became my son-in-law. And then many years later, became the CEO of Hunt Petroleum. And I think his starting salary was something like $1.4 million a year. And I thought, that all makes sense to me when I look and how important. And now I've noticed that writers are beginning to see the importance of learning. And the thing I was talking about, Alexis, a little earlier, 12 years old, I'm beginning to see the same thing. focusing his attention. In other words, not letting ourselves get diverted when we have something that we are manifesting, then to give it the proper attention. It's more important than hard work. And did you know, I think it's more important being able to do this than to being intelligent, because I've met a lot of genius-rated people that didn't do as well in life making everything work as some of the people just sort of in that medium, but knew how to focus on what they were doing and keep their mind on that. Now, I mentioned earlier about a partnership with Spirit. Somehow, this is one of the most important things of knowing that you are a spiritual being, and that's first. Jesus kept teaching it over and over, trying to persuade people to care for that. Seek first that spiritual kingdom, your spiritual kingdom. And all of these other things will just work out a lot better. All these things will come to you, all the stuff in life you ever wanted. But my desire is that we, as a group, begin to experience, and I know so many of you are already doing this. I'm preaching to the choir, really. But for those who might not be happy with what's happening, keep in mind there's a few little simple rooms. Once you start out and you know that your intent is to form this partnership, let God guide you. Be a part of the spiritual world as well as the physical world. Put all of this together. Put all of this together and begin to proceed on, knowing that there is a part of you, the invisible part, that's doing the work. Remember the story of Moses and the Israelites at the Red Sea? You remember that story? Well, Moses was complaining to God because he said, here we are. The Pharaoh has all of his chariots and soldiers and everything coming to destroy us, and here we're backed up against the sea. And he said, these people are really complaining to me. They're saying things like, is it better to die in the desert, or we could have lived in Egypt, and even though they were slaves. But here's what the message was. Peace be still, and let me do your fighting for you. Now, whether the Red Sea parted or whatever, that's not really, I'm not here to set any records straight. I can barely keep mine straight. But the metaphysics of this are so clear to me. God's part was parting the sea. Their part was marching across. Their part was getting active on the things they could do, and just simply, I'm beginning to use an expression in my own life, just showing up and seeing the miracle of what God can do. It's so amazing when we set our minds and our attention to doing things in a spiritual way, to where when an obstacle comes up, we don't even see it as an obstacle anymore. We just say, we know that there is a purpose. When somebody that's working against us shows up and right in our face, and we know that person couldn't be there unless they were permitted by Spirit. Couldn't be there. So there's some purpose, but we don't get upset. We don't get bent out of shape. We don't get thrown off of our course, because the course that we're taking is spiritual and greater than any obstacle. Greater than any obstacle. And we then begin to reinterpret what's happening. Instead of calling it a tragedy or something that besets us that's bad or evil or whatever, we're looking at it in another way. Because we're dealing with Spirit. We're dealing with Spirit. We're into a spiritual thing of manifesting our good. And that's just as we only give it the power that we choose to. Do you see? Whatever power an obstacle has, whatever power a person has that may be working against you, or it feels like, it's only the power you give it. Bless them, pray for them, and go on with what we're doing. Because right now, God is blessing you in everything you would like to manifest in your life. Thank you. God bless you. That's